Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're going to be playing more of the Irresistible Attraction seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which whenever someone plays a non-spying unit, they will steal a unit from their opponent's side of the board with the same amount of power. Now, normally that would mean you would use a deck to steal as many of your opponent's cards as possible, but this time we're doing the opposite, playing cards that are particularly difficult for our opponent to steal. So let's take a look at the deck. So today we'll be playing a Scoia'Tael Precision Strike deck, focusing on playing units that are so low on power that our opponent is going to find it very difficult to steal them. Then we'll use a bunch of damage to either destroy or steal our opponent's cards. So this deck is going to play very differently than many of the other Irresistible Attraction seasonal event decks that I've used in the past. To give you a quick example, we'll use cards like the Dol Blathanna Bowman and Wolfpack that are so low on power that our opponent probably doesn't have any units small enough to steal them directly, but because these cards can deal damage, they can still set us up to steal some of our opponent's cards. Combine that with a lot of special cards and a few artifacts, and there's a little bit of a unitless flavor to this deck. So now I'll flip through the deck to show you what else we have, starting with our Feign Death scenario, which can give us even more low power units once we start playing elves, as well as Waylay to give us some more damage. Then Simlas is the newest Scoia'Tael legendary card, and with him we can play all copies of a bronze special card from our deck, which we'll use to either deal a whole lot of damage or do a whole lot of boosting. He's also an elf, so he'll trigger our scenario, and he has just 2 power, so he's very difficult to steal. Then we also have a lot of either damage, or in this case, outright removal special cards like Heatwave. And Geralt of Rivia serves a similar purpose, just as a unit, and because he's only 3 power, he's also difficult to steal. Then the Saber-Tooth Tiger is one of the key cards that makes this deck feel a little bit like a unitless deck, because if we're going first and we play the Saber-Tooth Tiger and transform it into its artifact form, then that means that our opponent doesn't have any cards to steal with their first unit, and we will very likely start doing some damage to set up some sealing of our own. Then Saer Qu'an is one of our key point slams. We're hoping that if we play it late enough, our opponent doesn't have enough damage remaining to remove it at just 2 power, and because it's so small at that point, it's unlikely that our opponent will be able to steal it by playing one of their units, then hopefully it's getting boosted right as the round ends. Then Bone Talisman is one of the potential targets for Simlas. If we have a lot of units out there, then this is a great way to give ourselves a lot more points, though bear in mind this will make it a little bit easier for our opponents to steal those units. Then Lacerate is another potential target, except instead of boosting ourselves, we're damaging our opponents, so we'd like to keep all copies of both the Bone Talisman and Lacerate in our deck so that when we play Simlas, we have the choice of going in either direction. Then the Incinerating Trap is the other card that makes us feel a little bit like a unitless deck. This will serve a similar purpose to the Saber-Tooth Tiger, allowing us to start a round without having to play any units, so that our opponent doesn't have anything to steal. Then Waylay is the final special card that we could potentially use with Simlas. I'd argue probably not as strong as Lacerate and the Bone Talisman, so this is a card that we'd probably be fine playing directly from our hand. Then of course if we trigger the Death Blow, then we get more units out there that are relatively low and difficult to steal. Then we start looking at our little bronze cards that are low, so hard to steal, and deal some damage, which is hopefully just enough to steal some of our opponent's units. Then lastly, we have the Brokilon Sentinels, which we would like to keep in our deck, because if we use all charges of our leader ability, we will spawn and play a new copy of the Brokilon Sentinel, and if we trigger the Death Blow on that, then we will summon the 2 onto the playing field. So there's a look at the deck, and I'm very interested to play this, because one of this deck's primary strengths is sneaking some low power units past our opponents that they hopefully can't steal, and then unloading loads of damage on them. So I'm intrigued to see how that plays out. So without further ado, let's go see it in action. Alright, so going against Northern Realms here, and they'll go first. And I don't like having 2 copies of Lacerate in our hand with Simlas, because if we keep them in our deck, then we can use Simlas to play them if we would like. Then they'll start out with the Redanian Knight, and there are a few things we could do with this. We could either destroy it with Waylay, with a little bit of help from our leader ability, or we could try to steal it, but let's take this as a Waylay opportunity. And they're going to go with the Centurion Knight. And they don't get the Death Blow, but they do use their tactic here, so that's a 7 power unit. In which case, I think this is too good of an opportunity to pass up here. We have to steal this with the Saber-Tooth Tiger. So that sets us up for a really good combo here where they have no units out there at the moment. So whatever unit they play is going to get damaged by Saber-Tooth Tiger. And they'll go with the Amphibious Assault, so whatever it is going to be pretty big. Oh, it's Vandergrift. Wow. Okay, so actually, his shield will take the hit. And I don't think we can steal him unless we use our leader ability charges, but if we do that, then we're not going to get the death blow to trigger, and we want that to get the sentinels out of our deck, so I think let's just get rid of him. Yeah, and they pass. They realize that this is not a situation they're going to win, so we take an easy round 1 win here. And I actually like this hand a lot. So I think we can start out with either our Incinerating Traps or maybe even get our scenario out here. And usually when we're going first, my preference is to go with either the Saber-Tooth Tiger or the Incinerating Traps. But let's go for something a little different here. Let's use Oneiromancy to get our scenario, which will give us a commando, which, of course, we only have elves out there at the moment, so that'll get boosted. We'll go with the Korathi City Guard, which does not steal our commando, thankfully, because that is one of our cards that is most vulnerable to getting stolen. But speaking of stealing, we can do that here, if we play a Dol Blathanna Bomber. And so, of course, now we do have some non-elves, so we'll no longer get that commando boosted, but the Korathi City Guard will get boosted, so that makes up for it, I suppose. And they'll use their leader ability, which gives us another potential target to steal. And Onsace. Okay, I would love to take him, because they will steal our commando after all. But we have our sights set on a much bigger target, and we do have a way to steal him. So let's take him. And that is our last elf we need to trigger our scenario, so we'll get a Waylay here. And fortunately, they gave us an easy target. Then we'll go with Stennis, which will steal. Unfortunately, it is that Korathi City Guard, and that is the card that has the most long-term value other than Onsace at the moment. So let's make sure we use Onsace here. And then if we combine that with our leader ability, we can trigger both the death blow and steal a card. And then we're running out of time here. I guess we'll just use Waylay. Although, ideally, I would have liked to have had time to use the Bomber, because then we could have stolen another card. But they'll use Reynard, and then actually boost one of their cards up to 2 power, in which case, if we get lucky with the Bomber, we could still steal our commando back. So let's go for it here, and we hope that it hits the Guard and Reynard, and it does, so we can get the steal here. Then they'll use another round of Amphibious Assault. And this time they'll get Selkirk. And so if he's boosted up to a 6, we don't have great options to steal him. In fact, I don't think we can, so I think we just Heatwave him. Then they'll go with Kira Metz. In between their 2 units. Oh, and one of those has Veil, so you can't even give that guard vitality, so that's not the best play for them. And now, I suppose we play our Incinerating Traps. They were cards that I would have liked to have saved if we are planning on playing in round 3, but I'm liking where we're standing right now. I think we can push all the way in round 2. Then they'll go with Ildiko. And it is not quite enough damage to remove her, unfortunately. And so I think we go with our other Incinerating Trap here. And we could even manually trigger it to get rid of Ildiko. And there's definitely something to be said for that, so that they don't have time to use her order. On the other hand, it's just 1 damage, so maybe we leave it and try to destroy whatever unit they play next. It's Vandergrift's Blade, so they'll boost Ildiko, and then use her order to boost Kira. And I think at this point, by the end of the round, both Kira and the Guard will be at 11 points, so we could remove either of them with Geralt. Alright, then they go with Neneke, and she will, of course, get hit by this Incinerating Trap, though she also has enough power to tank the hit, which also is unfortunate because it means she has time to use her order ability here. But we've been saving the best for last. We still have Simlas, so let's use him. And we have a lot of units here, so I'm thinking we go with the Bone Talisman and play both copies of that. And in doing so, we have now doubled their score, so they have a lot of ground to make up here, and Vess surely will not be enough. They will get a steal off, but that will not do the trick. So we'll take the win. Alright, so going in Scoia'Tael here. And they'll go first. Okay, and we have the Saber-Tooth Tiger, which is always a great first turn card to play. However, it is definitely better when we're on blue coin, so we might just save that. Let's try swapping out the Wolf Pack. And we definitely want to keep our Brokilon Sentinels in our deck. Okay, they'll go with the Dol Blathanna Sentry, which would perhaps indicate they're going to go movement. And at 9 power, we could destroy that with Geralt of Rivia, and that is tempting. So tell you what, it's aggressive, but let's go for it. Now they'll go with the Dwarf Berserker, which will seal Geralt. But now let's take this Dwarf Berserker by going with the Dol Blathanna Bowman to hit Geralt, taking him out, and stealing the Berserker. And now they'll use Morin, and this looks like it'll be to lock that card. And we could steal Morin as well, using the Vrihedd Officer, so I suppose we go that route here. Now they'll use a Cat Witcher, which won't steal anything, but it will deal some damage. And we could steal that too, using a Dol Blathanna Bowman, so I think we'd like to do that. Okay, now they use another Cat Witcher. Which we can still take if we do the world's first Oneiromancy into Wolfpack. And they'll just pass and give us the round 1 win here on even cards. So you know what? We'll take it. Wolfpack for the win. Okay, and we're on even cards here in round 2. In theory, we do have a throwaway, although we do have the Saber-Tooth Tiger, which, as I was saying, is really good on blue coin. We could try to push here and go for the bleed attempt in round 2, maybe even try to 2-0 them. If we are going to go that route, then I'd say let's put some bronze special cards back in our deck, so we have more options with Simlas. So let's get rid of Lacerate, and Bone Talisman is another card that fits that description. And then we get the other Lacerate. Okay, so that's definitely not what we were looking for, because that means that the only bronze special card that we have 2 copies of in our deck is the Bone Talisman. And as you can see from our hand, we have a lot of special cards, not a lot of units. So that is probably not our preference when it comes to which special card we kept in our hand and which one we kept in our deck. And we don't really even have a throwaway card here. It's really all or nothing. And I think that special card situation might be reason enough for us to still dry pass here. They'll go with the Hawker Smuggler, which will of course give them some hand boosting. So they'll take the round 2 win. Okay, and I think we take this opportunity to optimize our hand more for Simlas. So let's get rid of Lacerate. And Feign Death is fantastic. Let's get rid of Wolfpack. And Incinerating Trap also works well. So I think we might stick with this and go for a really low points but very strong damage setup here in round 3. So they'll use Mata, which doesn't work when our hand is full. Now let's use the Saber-Tooth Tiger, which ideally we would have used on blue coin, but may still be able to deal some damage to them. Now they'll go with the Dryad Matron. And of course they'll put it in the same row as Mata, so that means no damage from Saber-Tooth Tiger. So let's stay unitless for now. Switching Saber-Tooth Tiger over, and use an Incinerating Trap. Okay, then they'll go with the Dwarf Berserker. And that will take the hit. And get destroyed. And I think we'd like to go with Feign Death now. That way we can get this commando boosted up. However, it is definitely stealable at this stage, so we could potentially get it back with the Dol Blathanna Bomber. And they will steal it here. But we do have a good chance of stealing something with this bomber, especially if we transform the Saber-Tooth Tiger and use one round of our Precision Strike ability on this commando. That way, if we hit either one of these, we'll steal it. And we do. Okay, now we'll go with the Dryad Enchantress. And that will steal one of our Deadeyes here, although it's in its own row, and so it gets damaged by the Saber-Tooth Tiger. And at this point, I'd say let's use our leader ability here. Deal some damage. Get out our Sentinels. And steal that card as well. And then let's also use Bekker's Rockslide to destroy that Dryad Matron, because it's generating just a few too many points right now. Okay, now they'll use Geralt of Rivia, and we don't have any big units for them to destroy, though they will steal one of our Sentinels. So I say, let's switch over to the Saber-Tooth Tiger, and use Waylay to get rid of Geralt, and spawn in another one of our Elven Deadeyes. Okay, now they'll use Gesros, and I think this is definitely going to be our Heatwave target. So let's get rid of him. Okay, now they use Gaetan, and sure, they have some units, but not a lot, so there isn't going to be a ton of damage here. Also, he is in a row by himself, so he will take damage from the Saber-Tooth Tiger. So let's switch over to the Saber-Tooth Tiger once more. And, dare I say, history may be about to repeat itself, because I think we go with Oneiromancy here. And we could use the Wolf Pack to deal 2 damage and steal this Brokilon Sentinel. Let's go for it. So the world's second Oneiromancy into Wolf Pack. Okay, now they use the Dol Blathanna Sentry, though we've more or less gotten rid of all their movement. Okay, and so I think now it's time to use Simlas, because if we do, then we can boost all of our units, and we will also get Waylay from the last round of our scenario, which we can use to destroy Gaetan, which will give us another unit to boost here. Oh, and admittedly, we should have played Saer Qu'an earlier, because he's not going to have time to get boosted here. So hopefully that doesn't matter. He'll use Yurden, which is actually a pretty good counter to what we just did. And we'll use Saer Qu'an, which actually, after they stole our Dol Blathanna Bomber, will steal her back. So fortunately, that means we will still take the win. Alright, so going against Northern Realms here. And they'll go first. Alright, and let's put one of our Sentinels back in our deck. And let's see if we can do better than Wolfpack. Alright, they'll start with Queen Adalia, which will give them a second card, in this case, a Redanian Archer. So in this case, I think let's go with our Dol Blathanna Bomber to steal that Archer. And then, might as well use the damage while we have them, because they might steal him back, because we know they have one of them in their hand. And here he is. And they did steal him, but he ended up in the melee row, so he's not really going to do anything for them. So why don't we just remove all of their armor with another bomber, and steal the one that has charges, and use it to destroy the other one. Alright, then they'll use the Centurion Knight. That will destroy one of them. And with their tactic, it gets fairly highly boosted. But if we combine Bekker's Rockslide with the charge of our leader ability, we can take it out. Alright, then they'll use a Reinforced Ballista, which we can also steal if we use a Dol Blathanna Bowman. Now they'll use a Ballista, and this will steal something. So they take the Reinforced Ballista, in which case, why don't we use the Dol Blathanna Bowman to destroy one of those cards and steal the other. And I think we thoroughly confused them, because they just didn't even play a card in their previous turn. In which case, I think we pass here, because we have a 12-point lead, and we're a card up. So if they want to try to beat us in round 1, they have to at least go 2 cards down, if not more. And they didn't play a card here either, so I think it's pretty clear that they have given up. They do pass, for what it's worth, but of course at this point, we not only won round 1, but we did gain some additional card advantage, and just to formalize it, they do in fact follow up with the forfeit. Because we had such a strong lead, they knew they couldn't catch up. So there's a look at a low-power, high-damage Scoia'Tael control deck for the Irresistible Attraction seasonal events. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below. Let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.